Hey everyone, Vlad here with a console-specific Smite patch notes review. This will be patch 4.7, Pillars of Success. Sorry I didn't stream last night. I haven't been feeling too great, a little under the weather now, but want to get this patch notes review out of the way. So there are a couple console updates, a few UI things that I won't really go over. One of the main bug fixes was they fixed an issue where relic button callouts were missing on certain controller layouts. So that's been fixed, so it's kind of really helpful in game to have those audio cues. Moving on to known issues, they are still having an issue with the spectator lobby that it only shows one team sometimes. Vote pausing will only display a vote indicator for the player who starts the vote. Racer Friends leaderboard may only display you, and the clan avatar scene in clan admin is not displaying avatars. So just a few small issues that are still in-game now. But with 4.7, they are introducing Ganesh, which is super exciting. His kit looks amazing. Don't get confused by his name. It is spelled with an A at the end, but it is pronounced Ganesh, not Ganesh, and he is a male, so just to clear up that confusion. So he is the god of success. I will link the reveal to him below. I'll go over his abilities now, but I'll link that below. You can check out his lore in that video. It's the high-res reveal. You can look at the lore, and as well as see his actions in, or his abilities in action, excuse me. His passive is called Good Fortune. I really like it as I'm a low-key support player. I really like playing support as long as I have a team around me. It basically prevents him from stealing kills. If there's an ally in range, even if he gets the last hit, that ally will still get credited for the kill, and Ganesh will be credited for, or awarded, as if it was an assist. So he can only really get kills if it's a complete solo kill and nobody's within assist range. But not only assist range, because his passive actually gives him an increased assist range. So keep that in mind when you're him. You're not really getting a lot of kills, but it's great for laning. You don't have to worry about stealing kills. So it's super helpful when you're trying to play just right to make sure that your ADC can get that last hit. But that'll prevent that now, so you don't have to worry about that. I just really like every one of his abilities. I'm going to be just super excited about, because just each one of them has something super unique, but that can be super powerful. So his first ability is kind of his lane clear. It's called Turn of Fate. So it has decent damage. I mean, at least for a Guardian. But what it does is for every enemy hit, it gives a bonus damage percent to the allies nearby. That lasts for, let's see, I'm not sure. So you have to be within 55 units, and it gives 2% increase per stack up to 5 stacks. So that's up to a 10% bonus damage percent, which is like pretty amazing. Like especially for a team fight, if you can hit a couple enemies and you have like all of your allies that are within 55 units having that increased damage, that could be really big. So that's exciting. It's a really team fight oriented god, which is. But for a Guardian, like a lot of the Guardians that have been released have been kind of lackluster in my opinion, kind of awkward. His kit is it's amazing. I'm really impressed, and I'm really excited to play him. So his second ability is called Ohm. It's mainly a defensive and peel and setup ability. So what he does is what they call it chanting. So he chants in this big aura. In the front of the aura is a small cone. I believe the range is probably about like 50 units, maybe 55. So all allies within that get increased protections, as well as enemies within the cone are silenced. And it synergizes really well with his dash, which I'll explain once I get to that, which is his third ability. So, I mean, again, really good for team fights. You have the increased protection. And it does say only physical protection, just to clarify, not magical. So really good for team fights, really good for setup when you combo it with a 3, and really good for peel if you have somebody getting jumped on and you can silence that person immediately and help your ally get out. So overall, just like a lot of versatility with this. Now comboing it with this 3, which is remove obstacles, so what that does, and it has, again, several different things that just make it super exciting. So the first is, so it's a dash. Dashes are helpful on any character. So you dash forward. If you hit an enemy god, you stop, you stun him, and then you throw him up in the air just slightly, and then he drops down. So not only is it a stun, but it's also a knockup, which extends that period of CC longer than just like, let's say, like a 1 second stun, because you stun them, you toss them up in the air, and then they drop down. So, and how that good combo is good with his 2 is you run up, you dash towards them, stun them, throw them up, and then immediately pop that Ohm, which silences them, so they won't be able to go anywhere. And so for setup or even for peel, there's just a lot of synergy between those 2 abilities. The awesome caveat on that ability, is caveat positive or negative? This is a positive. Remove obstacles. Ganesh can dash through player-made deployables. So Ymir Wall, Odin Cage, he can dash straight through them, which is pretty awesome, considering like walls are not one of those things that are a super problem in Smite, but when they are relevant, it's kind of annoying. So it's good to have a god that can counter that, and I think that's one of the things they wanted to introduce with this god. Now the 4th ability, his ultimate. So I wasn't in Smite when old Nuwa was prevalent, but apparently everybody's saying this is an old Nuwa ult. So what it does is it deploys this fairly large rectangle. There's no damage inside, but if an enemy is caught in it and then has to leave it, once he passes the threshold, he gets damaged, he gets slowed, and he gets protection reduction. So it sounds like it's really good for, it's pretty good for team fight, it's really good for zoning. So if you need to like zone out a certain area, like zone out a jungler from the fight, or you can just drop it on top of your team as everybody's in the thick of things. Again, a lot of versatility with this kit, and I'm super excited to see how this plays out down the line. But that's enough about Ganesh. I'm super excited to play him. That's all I'm gonna say. So there are a couple skins. Scylla's Vampiric Scylla. It is, I believe, if you purchase the summer ticket, you automatically get the skin. So the summer ticket is, I'll go into that in the next. It goes into it later in the notes. Modern Messenger Mercury. This one is unlocked through fantasy points, just by playing. So you don't actually have to purchase the ticket to get fantasy points. So you can potentially unlock this if you grind a little bit. The Sparrow Nike. This one is available for direct purchase. I believe it's 200 gems. 200 or 400, don't quote me on that. It looks like a pretty good skin. So this is a skin that's going in with their superhero theme, and it's a good looking skin. Next one is next and last. No, just the next one. Is Secret Order Uller. I'm not going to say what this is knocked off of, but if you're a fan of the game, you can probably tell. But it looks like a good skin as well. This one, I believe, is in a chest, so you cannot direct purchase it. But again, don't quote me on that. World Walker Giannis is the same way. This one kind of has that, because Ganesh, sorry if I didn't mention it earlier, Ganesh is a Hindu guardian. Forgot to mention that. Why I bring that up is World Walker Giannis actually is, he kind of has a Hindu vibe to him, just his kind of style. But super interesting skin. The effects on Giannis portals on this skin are absolutely amazing. The 3D effects of you like actually seeing down the portal is really awesome. You have to take a look at it. So that's enough of skins. Ganesh is getting a clap emote and a wave emote, and moving on to the season ticket. So this is what I was going to talk about earlier. So you purchase the Summer Split bundle for 400 gems, and you get the Scylla skin. You can vote on season games. You get bonus quests for fantasy points, double fantasy points for matches, 15 team fantasy point boosters, and 15 team worshiper boosters. And you get all of that with the Summer Split Pass for 400 gems. Now, if you want to purchase the with points one, it's 1,200 gems, and you also get the 2,500 fantasy points. So that'll just jump you straight up in the levels, so you can unlock more. Because if you don't know, fantasy points, you're basically collecting those to unlock other rewards. And you can unlock those without even purchasing any of this. It would just take a little bit longer. Season ticket rewards. So these are the things that are added that you can unlock with those fantasy points. Season ticket jump stamp. So those are basically if you jump like as your god, there's a little there's just an icon down there. And this is the first one they're introducing, and it's the season ticket for this year. There's a Soul Announcer Pack, 2017 season ticket music theme. I haven't heard it, so can't input on that. The Roman Recall skin, I saw the card art for it, and it looks pretty awesome. And the Mercury Modern Messenger, which I showed earlier. And the new ranked reward being the Summer Recall skin. So moving on to the ranked Summer Split, they did perform a soft reset of ranked. This means that you still keep your hidden elo that only high res can see. You still have that, which basically, like, imagine the ranking system going from bronze to masters, and your elo basically has a ranking in that. Now, they don't use that exact thing. I think it's a number, but imagine that. And you're keeping that, which is hidden and you can't see, only high res can see. But their soft reset is they're resetting your ranking. So you do have to. This means you have to redo your qualifiers. So that hidden elo, how those are gonna affect each other is that hidden elo should show where your about your level still is, whether it's bronze, whether it's gold, or whether it's masters. But you still have to redo your qualifying match, which could kind of sync those together, or maybe opposite, bring you down in rank, bring you up in rank. So a lot of things that could happen with that, just depending on your qualifiers. But your hidden elo is still intact, which is good for players who are high up, and as well. I mean, it's just good to keep you in the area that you're at, but still allow you to move. So the God leaderboards were reset. Sorry, I'm taking a lot of time on this. Gonna kind of try to speed it up here. Backup end adjustments, they changed some of the things on the coding on their end to try to make it more accurate. Placements after qualifying updates, they made it more difficult to be placed in higher divisions. Tribute point gains and losses, players will now be able to see how they earn TP and how it's calculated at the end of the match. I haven't seen that, so I don't know how that works, but we will see. Lobby ordering updates. So now, instead of just having the top person in ranked as top elo, they'll now have the first two in top elo. So they did that to try to give more control to the players who are doing well. So if you're playing well and you're top elo, that's to say that you're a good player. Like that's what that usually that means. So that means that it allows you to have more control in the picks and bans as far as like what gets picked first and what gets banned. So it's trying to give a little bit more control to the players who are apparently better. Select from owned gods. So players can now pick from any god in ranked. So this was an issue when you had a player go into ranked, and was talking with the rest of the team and asking another player to pick up a god for them, but they didn't have it ranked, even though the player who wanted it didn't had it ranked. So this will prevent that from happening. That way, like some important picks might not get passed over just for that reason. But it will still remain that I think you need like 16 gods mastered to even play ranked. So that'll still be intact, but you will now be able to pick any god or during the pick and banning phase. Ranked TP DK, if you haven't heard of it, it's basically if you don't play ranked for a while, you slowly lose TP and you can slowly lose rank. So with this patch, they're ramping it up, which means you lose more TP faster, and this can go all the way down to gold 5. I don't know if that means if you're below gold 5 that like TP decay doesn't apply. So that's still I'm not sure about. But you can, if you just jump on, play one ranked game, it will reset that DK time. Now they're implementing this to sort of show that, or to have players who got on right when the season or the split started, did all their qualifiers, ranked pretty high, and then were happy with it and didn't play. They're not going to be able to stay at that level anymore. They're going to DK a lot faster. And the reason they're implementing that is, the Smite's constantly releasing more patches. And that means that the meta is changing, item are changing. So if let's say you grinded ranked for the first week it came out, you got up to diamond, but you haven't played in like 4 weeks. Well, in 4 weeks, there's probably been at least 2 patches, and a lot of things could have been changed. So are you necessarily still at that diamond level? Well, if you are, cool. You just have to go on and play an extra couple more games to make sure you stay at that level, or make sure that you're playing ranked more consistently so you don't decay. Moving on to miscellaneous. When receiving gems, favors, fantasy points, your notifications will now also tell you the amount of currency received. Just a small miscellaneous fix. So there is a lot of bug fixes for items and gods. I'm not going to go over all of them. I'm going to try to hit the important ones. There's audio, new audio for Sundering Spear, Phantom, Horrific, and Undoing. There's visual effects updates for Undoing, Phantom, and Cursed. And Blink Rune got a new icon. That way it can better differentiate from Teleport. So Blink now has it's like an orange yellow color. So just to help that. And a couple of item bug fixes here. The main one I think is Stone of Gaia will now properly prevent an Ares ultimate pull. No escape. So because Stone of Gaia prevents pulls, knockups, and I think one other, so it should prevent that, and now they made sure it did. These are the bug fixes I'm talking about. I'm only gonna hit these are correct radius, fix an issue where Fafnir could recall during the transformation back to dwarf form. And just to clarify, I'll link these patch notes below, so if you want to look at these more in depth, you can feel free to go down there and check these out. But I'm trying to speed this up a little bit. Freya issues, How Yi, correct range update, correct radius, Kuzenbo, Sumo Slam. Sumo Slam should now properly be immune to roots during its duration. So those are the important ones I'm talking about. Something that actually changes the way the gods played. Nuwa, Clay Soldiers should now no longer scale with physical power. And the Morrigan, I'm not going to talk about these changes, but because it's mentioned again below. And Xingtian fixed an issue where using his ultimate on a knocked up target would cause them not to be thrown. Item changes, Frenzy's back as a relic, which is awesome. I really liked it as a relic. Now, is it going to see a lot of play? We'll see, because there's a lot of relics that are pretty prevalent right now. Obviously, Beads and Aegis for squishies. Meditation's pretty strong right now. So, will we see it? Maybe. We could see it on a support, or maybe a solo laner pick it up. But, and then, of course, in the casual gameplay as well. I'm glad it's back. Since the removal of rituals, which was awesome. For sure, it's good to see Frenzy back. It's an interesting relic and provides an interesting aspect to the game. Blackthorn Hammer is getting an increase in health from 250 to 350. Cursed, which is an anti-heal item, is getting a decrease in cooldown, which is awesome because it was a really high cooldown for the item it was. It was 150 seconds, and now it'll drop down to 100. Gladiator Shield, which is sort of a bridge item for solo laners, but warriors also. It is getting it's the equivalent for an Ichabal for a hunter in the duo lane. It was a cheap item, but it gave a good amount of stats. So Gladiator is the same as Ichabal, it's 1700, but it gives some decent stats. It's not that popular right now, but we'll see if that changes at all. It's getting a physical protection increase from 40 to 45, and the percent of health and mana restored for its passive is 2% to 2.5. Its passive, I believe, is the abilities that you use, you gain that much health and mana, so now it's increased to 2.5. Excuse me. So Lona's Mask is being implemented with this patch. At the beginning of the season, they implemented these 500 gold masks. So you had Boomba's, which has been in game forever, and then they reduced Ragna's mask, and now they have Lono's mask. So the idea is that it seems like they're trying to create these masks for different roles, but provide a unique effect to those roles. So this one's, like I said, 500 gold, and what it's going to do is basically it's going to give you, for being in range, not getting the last hit of minions and jungle camps, you get a stack. That stack provides you with 2 health. The stacks are permanent, can go up to 75, and once you get those 75 stacks, you're given 400 gold. Just right off, once those stacks are completed, you get 400 gold. So it's really a give and take type item, because it is going to delay your build investing that 500 gold, but in the long run, it could be beneficial. So you really have to do the checks and balances of an item like that. I've been seeing it picked up quite a bit. I haven't had a chance to test it out myself, but I'm looking forward to doing so. Meditation Cloak is getting a bit of a change. Before it was it healed health and mana on the by percent on the targets. On the users. Like, so whoever used that meditation, it would do a percent of their health. So let's say you're playing assault and you have a hunter use it. Well, you're not going to get much from it because they don't have that much health and mana anyway, or mainly health. But so now it's gonna, whatever that target is. So whoever's getting that heal, it's gonna heal them for 15% of their max mana, plus 75. You know, the math, 75 plus 12 per level. So that should be, so meditation is more impactful, which is why when I mentioned frenzy, as like I'm glad it's back. Well, meditation's pretty strong right now, especially with this change. Moving on to rage. Rage could become pretty relevant if the meta kind of shifts back to pen builds, or shifts to crit builds, because right now the meta is really high in pen builds for hunters. But I really like the new rage passive, which is killing or getting an assist on an enemy god gives you 1 stack. Each stack provides 1% critical strike chance. Stacks are permanent and stacked up to 5 times. So that only gives you 5% crit chance. But at 5 stacks, you gain an additional 10%. So you finish this item, you get 5 assists or kills, whichever. You have an increased 15% crit strike. So that's pretty nice, because it still has its own stats, which is 15 or 20% crit percent, and then I want to say 50 power, but that might be pushing it. So it's still got good stats, and then this kind of is a more incentive to get it. But if you're building crit, you want to get it kind of early to make sure that you can get these stacked and it's making the most impact. Runeforged Hammer is getting increased health from 200 to 250, and the passive increase on crowd controlled targets is increased from 10% to 15%. Shield of Regrowth, so it's a nerf and a buff. A good nerf to it though, because the cooldown for it was one of the reasons it was so strong, besides its passive, which was useful. It did have 20% cooldown for a good price. So that's getting knocked down to 10, but it is going to increase health to 200 to 300. Shillelagh item is getting a health increase from 100 to 200, which is the secondary item to Stone of Binding. And Stone of Binding's passive now triggers on all crowd control, not just hard crowd control. So that's a pretty decent buff to that item as well. Sundering Spear is getting Sundering Spear upgrade is getting a nerf. So increased damage debuff from 30% to 25%, and an increased cooldown from 90 to 100. So this was an item that was super impactful for bursting a target down. So they're trying to bring that back a little bit. Alright, so finishing up with the god changes, Ao Kuang is getting a bit of a change. His water illusion will no longer be broken by minions. Awilix, mana cost on her Moonlight Charge, which is the little panther that she sends out, that's going to get reduced mana for all ranks. Kabrakan is getting a reduction in physical protection, base physical protection, as well as a decreased damage on tremors. Kabrakan has been picked a lot, and he provides a lot of early tankiness and early damage due to those tremors, because it's able to clear the wave and deal some damage. They're just giving that a bit of a nerf, trying to bring him back a little bit. Camazotz is getting a decent buff. It's not like significant different changes, but they are impactful. So his Essence Drinker, his passive, he'll now be able to drink those Essence pools while going full speed, or full speed at all times, instead of having to get out of combat and sit in that pool for a second. As well as his Devourer, which is his leap, will no longer have that small delay that occurs as he's doing it, or like when you initiate it. It'll now immediately initiate. So it's a kind of good quality of life changes that I think will make him even more fun, because I personally like him. Krononos is getting a nerf on the ult. It's going to be reduced radius from 30 to 25. So it's just a big AoE team fight ult that was just a bit too strong, so they're going to bring that back a little bit. Hunbats is getting a nerf as well. Again, he's been picked a lot. And so they are decreasing his the slow that he gets on his somersault, which is his leap. They're decreasing the impact of that impact of that slow on the early game, as well as the Fear No Evil, which is his ultimate, is getting an increased cooldown. Izunami's Fade Away will no longer be able to be broken by minions. That's her dash and also her stealth. Kuzenbo is getting a buff. Specifically, his Nene Kappa is getting a buff. So these little mini turtles will now inherit 20% of Kuzenbo's current health and protections in addition to its base. So if you're fighting against those Nene Kappas in game, they're going to be pretty tanky, so just watch out for that. Neja is getting an increased number of bounces, so it's just one extra one on each level. So she just hasn't been very popular, and she is one of the harder assassins to play. So they're trying to bump her up a little bit without making her too strong, but hopefully make her a little bit more playable. And Nox is getting a decreased cooldown on her Night Terror, which is her ultimate. So it's going to be the same at rank 1. However, as it gets ranked up, it's going to be going down all the way down to 70 seconds. So in a late game, that's really nice for a Nox player, having that team fight big damage ult. Soul is getting a small quality of life change. Her Stellar Burst, which is her main clear, will no longer have an in-hand penalty when firing. So usually when you fire it, she'll, as if you were firing a basic, you'll get that penalty, in-hand penalty, but that's no longer going to happen. So it'll make her Stellar Burst, I imagine, probably a little bit easier to hit because that small delay allows somebody to kind of step out of the range, and maybe that'll help get her damage off. Susanoo also getting a small change. Hydra's Lament will now only proc on the first stage of his Storm Cantata, so that the main clear that he has, that damage, the 3-step damage, where he spins and whatnot, that'll only proc one time. And the last change that I mentioned that I said I'd talk about later is the Morrigan stealth will no longer be broken by minions. So that's the entire patch notes. That's just about all I have for you. I will have all the links below, so you'll be able to get the patch notes, the God reveal, and any other relevant links will be down in the description. So feel free to use those to however you'd like. I'm really excited for Ganesh. I can't wait to play him tomorrow on stream. So if you are on Twitch, feel free to hit me up on there as well. I'll be streaming. Right now I stream on Monday, Wednesdays, and Friday nights. And yeah, I think that's all I got for you. Thanks for stopping by. Please like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you all later.